on our faces. We are here yet again, like Brew Book Review, to discuss this month's book. Now, as always, we like to go a little round robin and everyone gets their selection for the month. So this pick was none other than Stephanie O's. So I'm going to let her, introduce it, talk about it a little bit, and us know why she picked The Great Gatsby. Oh, she ain't ready. She ain't ready.
Oh, hello. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry. It's not too loud, right?
Yeah, we can hear you. You're good.
Okay. Sorry. So basically, I selected this book because growing up in my high school, it was not as rigorous as others, so I did not read any of the American classics.
Okay.
I've always been curious about this book, and I thought it would be interesting to see kind of like why schools want students to read this. Why is this a part of the curriculum? When we talk about the background of it, unfortunately on my device, I cannot see the synopsis. So
Okay.
I will give my version of the synopsis. Oh, you'll do it? Oh, good. Okay.
All right. So let's get into the synopsis here. All right. The Great Gatsby is a 1925 novel by American writer F. Scott Fitzgerald, set in the Jazz Age on Long Island near New York City. The novel depicts first-person narrator Nick Carraway's interaction with mysterious millionaire Jay Gatsby and Gatsby's obsession to reunite with his former lover, Daisy Buchanan. I think it's Buchanan. Buchanan. There we are. So yeah, that's the synopsis. So again, we're just going to talk briefly about the book and give it our rating. For me, if you guys don't mind if I go first, just just say a couple thoughts. This was a hard read for me, ma'am. I was very much struggling the whole way through. Like there were certain parts of it that I really enjoyed because I was able to like connect it to other things that I enjoyed, like Saltburn. We'll talk about that later. But a lot of it was very dated, in a way that isn't good, right? Not like this isn't like Shakespearean classics. It's like, what did he just say? Who and what and who and what. And it was also just a little, I guess, convoluted at times. There were times where I didn't even know what was going on. And it could have been because I didn't enjoy that I was kind of spacing out a little bit and missing some parts. But I tell you what, it was like, there were many parts that I just couldn't like hold on to. It was just like, okay, as soon as I got done reading it and out and done, right? But as far as stars go, where I would rate it, I'm going to unfortunately have to give this book a 1 star. I'm giving it a 1 star because it didn't really hold my attention. It was more of a chore to read it. And had it not been something we were doing for the book review, I would have not picked this up myself. But those are my thoughts. E, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to. So I do remember reading this story in high school. And I, back then, did have a penchant for more flowery language back then in my novels and just kind of really painting a picture. And I think F. Scott Fitzgerald did a really good job with that in the story. Painting a picture, but also like, I think a part of the descent for me with this particular piece of body of work is that it's just the age of it. It's from an era of opulence. It's just before kind of, I want to say, wait, is this before the Depression? Yeah, this was before the Depression.
Yeah,
and it's just it's set kind of during or just before the Gilded Age. And so it's just a bunch of very wealthy people who come from a lifestyle and a history of generational wealth. And so they just kind of get in these gatherings and these get-togethers, these parties, and they kind of gossip. They talk about each other. They're all having affairs, and it's just telling and discussing a level of opulence that I, as a working class person, probably will never know about and can't really relate to. In addition to the fact that I want to say there it is an added veil of politeness from this era where people just don't speak very candidly, and it's just impolite to get straight to the point. And so while the author also does this partially to paint a picture, but also just is very, very polite with how he describes people, even the people that he doesn't really care for, he's describing them in a way that is kind of with respect to this air of politeness. Now, another piece of it is that, you know, coming from this wealthy background, all of these people are taught to not discuss certain things because it would be considered gauche, or it would be considered low class to address certain things, until Tom Buchanan decides he's just going to throw caution to the wind and address the fact that his wife is, you know, soft on this
Gatsby.
nouveau riche Jay Gatsby, and you know his insecurity fully comes out, and he's just, you know, going for the throat, going for the jugular.
Meanwhile, he's cheating on her whole time, which is wild.
You know, but I mean, in that time though, it's also like that's seen as par for the course. If you're with a wealthy man, you just kind of have to ride the wave because you're well taken care of, you're well kept as a wife, and you just don't go and have an affair. Well, on one hand, while I initially, upon reading this book and honestly seeing the movie, I was very, very disheartened by Daisy as a main character and as a woman, because she just kind of just falls in line for most of the story. In her having an affair, and in her taking up with a man who she had a prior affair with, a love affair with, honestly, I, with adult eyes, admire her audaciousness to kind of take hold of the reins of her own life. And so in that way, of that time, I would consider her an early white feminist icon for those reasons. For those reasons alone. She didn't stand by them toward the end, but
no,
for the fact that she took the opportunity to take up an affair, considering the circumstances of her marriage, I admire that wholeheartedly. And so I'll just, you know, I'm getting too in the weeds, but I will say I will give this story a solid 2.5.
Oh,
and that's high for me. It's high for me because originally I did not want to read this book whatsoever again. And you know, it just doesn't speak to me as the person that I am now. But I see what they're going for. I see with adult eyes what and why this story in particular has been parodied to death in Hollywood.
Yes.
And why it's essentially telling a tale as old as time.
All right. So before before Stephanie gives us her thoughts, let's get into these comments here. We got a hello from Charmaine. Thank you for watching. We got Quentin here saying it was hard. It was a hard read for me too, 35 years ago. All right. We got Books. Hey, Books. Evening Ladies agree. Gatsby is a dry read. I couldn't even get into the movie. Wow, you're the second person I heard say something negative about the movie. Quentin, I probably can't read this book now in this day and age. 1 out of 4 stars. Wow. Okay. All right. Same. But all right. Let's see, Stephanie. Oh, you got the table. Let's take up for your book and give it your star rating.
So the first thing is, I will agree that the writing was so flowery. I'm used to more succinct writing. So that part, I didn't need as much detail because I have an imagination, but I get it. That was a sign of his talent. And I appreciated that he was intricate. But I think that what I enjoyed about the story was that it had themes that are relevant today, right? Uh, Affairs, problems, if you will, marital problems. They are not class based. The wealthy have problems, the poor have problems. Like, it's a human thing. So I felt like the book was very humanizing of all people and saying, hey, we all pull our pants up one pant leg at a time. I will say I had a problem that all the poor people were killed. The folks that lived at the end were Daisy, Tom, and the golf star. I can't think of her name right now. Dorothy? That's probably not right. I can't think of her name. But I thought that was a bit like very happily ever after, that they got rid of the people that were quote unquote loose ends in their lives. I also didn't appreciate the fact that I guess I just didn't appreciate the fact that Tom was so outraged by Daisy's affair, given the fact that he had been carrying on with this woman for forever. And then, as Daisy talked about the affairs he had in Chicago, he's basically been cheating the whole time they're together, so she can't get one.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I also felt like I understood Jay Gatsby in the sense of he was trying to be worthy of her. I don't think men today do a good job of that. He's the epitome of, if he wanted to, he would. This man did everything he could to show Daisy that I am worthy. Now, granted, they did say he took her virtue when he was broke and couldn't offer her anything. So, tomato, tomato. But, he did try to, quote unquote, make an honest woman out of her. But I will also say, any person that trusts a person that says, I love you, and they didn't lead their husband or wife, you should never believe. So that was his downfall. He should have just enjoyed the ride and then let her go. And when we can get together, we can be together. And when we're not, we're not. I think that was his Achilles heel. But for Tom to sick Wilson on him like that, that's a coward. Tom is he is the villain of the book. But I enjoyed I enjoyed being able to sift through the writing and get to the heart of it. I enjoyed the themes that I took away that I know are applicable today. And I would say I would give it a strong 3.5.
What?
The writing, the 1.5, I have to take for the writing just because it was so dense. Thank you, sir. But other than that, it was a good story with good messages that I can see why students are still reading it today.
Wow, that's surprisingly high. But okay, now that we've all given our ratings, let's get into, I don't know if it's a spoiler at this point, because again, everybody in the comments read it. It's an old A book, but we're going to play the glyph anyway. Now, let me tell you why Daisy is trash, right? I don't mess with Daisy, because how's she going to run over her husband's mistress in cold blood, right? And then allow Gatsby to take the blame, like no issue, just sprinkle. She's just like, whatever. She's the one who killed this lady.
She had to let him take the blame.
She had to
take the blame.
He
was not fit for jail.
He wasn't trying to. He didn't refute it when they were like, "Oh yeah, you killed it. That was your car." He didn't say nothing about her really being the one to anybody of consequence. He was just about to let her do whatever, and she got away.
He did what a man is supposed to do. A man got to take responsibility for the woman he let drive.
He did, and when you get down to kind of the themes of this story, not only is it like romantic tragedy, right? It's also about kind of the concept of aspiring to the American dream, and Jay Gatsby does represent that. I think that a big part of it for him, for the American dream for him, was being able to not only be worthy of Daisy in the end, but being chosen by Daisy when she had the option to stay with her very wealthy husband, who was also well connected and well known in society. That said, I think this was kind of him falling on the sword to once again prove to her that he is worthy of her love. Obviously he didn't know that he didn't know that that meant necessarily that he would die for her and die for that cause. But I also think that him being
But
a
Jay
soldier,
probably was willing to die though for her.
yes, I think so, and I think that coming from being a soldier as well, and coming from poverty, like he knows that it might have made sense in some way for it to end this way for him, because he ultimately he realized he wasn't going to end up with the love of his life, who was Daisy, and ultimately another theme in this story is that the poor and the nouveau riche don't belong, and they're therefore disposable to the wealthy. And I think that that is something that this story really drives home. I think that Nick represents kind of almost the middle ground. He's not wealthy either, but because he comes from a family and he has that familial connection with Daisy, that he's not too far removed from it. He does still live in the neighborhood. I mean, it's not that he's very wealthy, but he does still live in the neighborhood. He lives right next door to Jay, and he is among them, but he also knows his place and knows his role. He's not one of them, and he never acts like he is. Jay does though, and he suffers the consequences because of that.
Let's get into a couple of these comments here. We got Bugs. Yep, Daisy folds like a chair. Quentin, yeah, that's gangsta. Hello, everyone. Hello, Christopher. Thanks for joining. Can't argue with that point, Stephanie. Okay, all right. Somebody hearing the arguments here. Innocence died for the I can't even speak. Capitalistic ideals. Correct. I agree. But
also
go ahead.
Hold on, I got one more thing. Two things. As special shout out to Quentin. Good to see you watching. Good to see you. Second point, the other big theme here is for love or money. And what Daisy showed us is what we all know. At the end of the day, Gatsby's money couldn't touch Buchanan money. And she knew that there was no way she could have the life that she needed for her and her daughter. She was also looking out for baby girl, even though she did call her, she hoped she's a pretty fool. I know that's an iconic line, and I was trying to find out more about that line, why she said that about her daughter. But I guess it's just saying, hey, you got to do what you got to do as a woman. And I think at the end of the day, while she probably, I think Gatsby didn't read the room well enough to know she would never leave her husband. He had good intentions. Daisy did what she had to do as a woman to secure and preserve, her livelihood and her child's livelihood. So for love or money, that's the takeaway here.
That was a bar though. That was a bar with the I hope she's a fool or whatever when she when she's born or when she gets older. And there was another bar, and I remember saying how I love large parties. They're so intimate, like no one really cares what you're doing or something. I was like, that's fact.
I peeped that as well. You definitely do get a little bit more privacy in larger parties because everybody's not so up in your face and seeing who's interacting with who. Definitely.
But to bring it to the Saltburn of it all, like as I was reading this, I was like, this is giving very much Saltburn. And I was talking to E about it just casually about the book. And she mentioned how it reads slightly, homoerotic a little bit. Like what Nick has this weird fascination with Gatsby to the point that it's almost like, like if it was written today as Saltburn was, I feel like this would be the Saltburn of today, because this is the synopsis of Saltburn. It's a 2023 Black comedy, psychological thriller film written, directed, and co-produced by Emerald Fennell, starring all of these people. That's not important. Set in Oxford and North Hampshire. It focuses on a student at Oxford who becomes fixated with a popular aristocratic fellow student who later invites him to spend the summer at his eccentric family estate. So again, this main character here, he's surrounded by wealth, but he himself is not necessarily wealthy, and he develops this somewhat obsession with this more popular, more wealthy, more charismatic character. And if you haven't watched the movie, I won't spoil it too much, but it does descend into a situation where it's like, okay, what's going on here? Now we see what's really going on. And I feel like if The Great Gatsby was written today, they wouldn't be so shy about these slightly homosexual undertones. You didn't feel that? I felt it. I felt it between
So he has an affair with a lady named Jordan, but I do feel like Jordan might have been originally written as a man. I'm very surprised that she ends up being a woman in the story, because if I'm being honest, even her temperament and kind of how she carries herself in the story is not especially feminine. Like Daisy is painted as this like, wilting lily who can get excited and almost hysterical, or also like timid and like, but Jordan's not like that at all. Jordan is very assertive. Jordan speaks her mind often, and Jordan will get drunk with the best of them. And Jordan pretty much speaks her mind and is very, very almost blunt. And emboldened to be so. Now, that could be because she doesn't have a Tom Buchanan like stifling her in every step of the way. But Jordan is very like, a very worldly woman. Like she's described as such in the book. And Nick is very, I won't say obsessive necessarily, but he is very enmeshed in the whole Daisy Tom thing. The whole Daisy Jay Gatsby thing. And he is very like over Tom. Like, it's weird. And it's weird how he describes his own cousin Daisy. Now, it's not even how that he describes her in a sensual, sexual way, but he does like admire her like waif like beauty and like her feminine, and he does admire her in a way that is very like, okay, like he's
snaps, 2 snaps in it.
I wish Stephanie didn't have to leave just now, because I would have loved to hear her thoughts.
Not you snapped her away like Thanos.
No, that was right.
I was going to say
before she gets back in here, I do want to hear her thoughts on that. But this estate was supposedly the inspiration for Jay Gatsby's home. It is in Long Island, and it is a French style chateau. And it's probably still up. It's a historic site. And it is at first cost $11 million to build. It's 443 acres, and it's at the highest point of Long Island, and it's currently valued at $158 million in today's currency.
Wow. Now, hold on. We got a comment here. Hey, everybody. Hi. Thanks for joining us. Twitch. But I too felt like, okay, Jordan was a little bit, I feel like if it was a man, they didn't even bother changing the name like that. Jordan could be either way. It could be a girl or a boy. So I definitely felt that, something was going on with Nick. And like I said, if it was written today, there would be more bold with those choices. But hold on, let's see. A beautiful chateau. Yes, it is. Hey, see.
I do want to touch on that comparison to Saltburn really quickly, though, too. Barry Keoghan's character in Saltburn, I want to say he, not to spoil that, but he did strongly feel that while he, also came from kind of middle ground, upper middle class family, he felt that this family who had this estate was undeserving of such wealth, and it could easily be outsmarted out of it. And Nick Carraway, from what my understanding, he didn't even want to necessarily be party to any of this. He was dragged along for a lot of it, and he kind of just faded into the background. And I also thought that was a little odd. Everyone kind of just wanted him to tag along, and it was almost like they needed him or someone of almost lesser status to bear witness to their opulent and kind of careless behavior.
But what was up with and now we're getting into slight spoilers of Saltburn, but what was up with, it seemed like he didn't want to get into it, but clearly by the end, right, it seemed like it was all part of some master plan, right? So it's like, it just kind of got very weird at certain points. And I could see that happening in this book had it have been written today. Very much.
Yeah,
so.
He was definitely invested. Okay, I think we have Stephanie back.
All right, let's
He
see.
was definitely invested in Jay Gatsby getting back with Daisy, or at least getting what he wanted. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right, Stephanie. We got Stephanie back in the stream here, so she can give her rebuttal
I,
and stick up
I am so
for this book.
sorry.
Forgive
I
us
am
for
so
the technical issues.
but for the viewers,
Hold on, what you say?
right? Can y'all hear me?
It's going in and out a little
Can y'all hear
bit.
me?
Yes.
Hold on. Let me see. Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah? I can hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay. For the viewers, I did have in my calendar earlier, and so technically I knew this was going to be an issue, and I was prepared, just so they know I did not fade out on them. I am always here for our reviews. That's for the public. Now, to get to my rebuttal, what Jordan portrayed was that not all women are idiots, right? Daisy is not the only type of woman out there, and what Jordan was there to show is that while there were some women who just fell in line, there were modern women ahead of their times. At no point did I ever get that this was like homo. What did you call it?
Erotic.
I don't know I don't even know what erotic. Right? No, he had various affairs with women. He was very much to women. He could appreciate, like, this guy has something to be, enamored by and things of that nature. But no, I feel like he liked a woman who was assertive and sure of herself, and that's what women need to be anyway. So no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This was very much like her giving an additional view of what could also be seen during that era.
All right. All right. Well, if you guys are still with us, thank you for watching our full stream. And just as a recap, I gave it 1 star. E gave it 2.5.
Yeah.
And Stephanie O gave it 4 stars or 3.5 stars.
3.5.
3.5. All right. So if you enjoyed the video, please like the video and join us for our next book review. Actually, Books gave us a bunch of suggestions. I'll talk to you ladies about it after the stream. So for our next read for next month, which is September, right? Yes, we have some suggestions for the viewers. So again, thank you guys for joining us and have a good day. Goodbye.